that, remove visa, and then to stage. Live with StreamYard. Hang on a minute. All right. Good morning, folks. Welcome to the Fall Franchise Filming webinar. So, this is our fourth monthly webinar that I'm hosting, and hosting this webinar truly humbles me. We have had a record sign up every single month since we started this webinar, and we couldn't be happier that these hard work are being appreciated. This is not possible without a great team of army behind the scenes. So thank you to my marketing team. Now, without further ado, I would like to introduce my guest today, Lisa Welko. So she came with over 20 years of experience in franchising. Welcome, Lisa. I have a full resume to talk about you, so let me finish that off. Lisa has worked on the franchisor side. She's also a franchisee currently, but most recently, she spent the last 10 years as a franchise consultant. So I thought Lisa would be an amazing asset for this very important topic today, to just look at the POV from consultant. Now, we have a lot of ZORs sign up today. You're here today because you are invested in broker relationship and you want to learn how can you work more effectively with your consultant and start getting some ROI from those investments you make going to these events and conference to network with the consultant. Eventually, you want to get more territory track, more leads, and closing more deals. So let's get the convo going. Now, for those that are tuning in live on LinkedIn and YouTube, feel free to ask any questions along the way. Our marketing team is going to feed us questions along the way. Lisa, do you want to just give us a quick introduction?
Sure. Well, thanks for having me, Claudia. I always appreciate the opportunity to help. And I'm excited for this conversation. I think too many times they might be asking the wrong people, right? So it's like, let's talk to the brokers and see what they want. And I think, the biggest thing is we all want growth and we all want the good brands to grow and get new owners. And so, yeah, I appreciate this. I call myself the old lady around the broker world because I've been around forever and kind of worn all the hats. So thank you.
And you are completely right. In all honesty, this topic was born because we have a good relationship with IFPG. We've been going to this, regionals mixture, and I see consultant and I see the franchisor, and both sides have their side of story, and they say like, why are consultant not doing anything? And then consultant are complaining, well, the ZORs are not really doing the right thing, right? So we have so many brands in our portfolio, and if you're not doing the right thing, I'm not gonna go extra mile to do that, right? So this topic was kind of born from this relationship that I had and hear from both sides, and we want to come in as a resource to aid that. So
Right.
I am gonna move on to the next slide.
To add to that, I think one of the most important things for the brands to remember is our role, right? Our role is to be a guide, to give a concierge approach, to help the candidates and the leads that we work with to understand franchising first, understand all of the kind of different lingo that goes around it and all the opportunity that's there. But our job truly isn't to kind of like sell your brand. So when you start to think about the fact that we are matchmakers, we are guides, we are tour guides, however you want to say it, consultants in this space. I think that if the brands start there and think, if I need to educate the brokers, at the same time I'm educating our candidates, if they take it from that approach, I think we'll all get along a little bit better too.
Sounds good. Now, so Lisa, these are the topics that we're gonna go through today, but we will just go with the flow. Nothing is censored, like I say. So we're just gonna have a great discussion and to hear from the consultant point of view. Like, you probably work with a lot of different consultants too, and they probably have different perspectives. So my first question for you is, first of all, like, what do franchise consultants look for when they're deciding, which brand to recommend to their candidates? You have a big inventory.
We do. I mean, we have hundreds up to thousands of brands to look at. And so, I mean, I think obviously for every broker, it's going to be different. We need to hit those bullet points first. So we're going to make sure, there's a strong management team and there's strong support for our franchise candidates. But when we go deeper, I think that's where that relationship gets formed. And so we are looking for opportunities to convey what we've learned about a brand to the candidates that we're working with. So if I come across a brand, even if they're brand new and they have a deep bench of support and a great training program, and even if it's a handful of franchisees that are doing really, really well, that's what I want to remember. And that's what I want to share with the candidates that I'm working with. So I think understanding the details of the brand is important, but then how I'm going to convey that to the people that I'm working with is more important. Make it easy for me to not only remember your stories, but to share your stories.
I was just going to ask,
be the salesperson. Go ahead.
Give me the gold standard. Like, what is some example that makes it really easy for you to remember and make it easy for you to present to candidates?
I think, understanding that I'm in a couple of different fabulous networks. And so we have access to these portals. So for me, it's kind of a double-edged sword. When I look into those portals, I'm looking for very succinct information, but then I'm also looking for the behind the scenes. And I am looking for what I can share with my candidates, right? So I don't want to have to dig. So I think the best brands have maybe one or two one-pagers that kind of hit those bullet points that are candidate facing, and then longer form. So a longer form, e-brochure, whatever that is, on why that brand differentiates itself. And then, truthfully, and this kind of is probably why you asked me, I love video. I want to have interactive franchisee candidate videos that I can share. Hey, this person is just like you. This person has a similar background to you. Look at this, take a look and watch it. So I don't want to see, as long as you're giving me this platform, I don't want to see 15 one pages. That's way too much to share, and it's way too discombobulated. And if I'm not going to read it, you're certainly not going to get my candidates to read it. So
now, does that happen a lot still in your portfolio? If we were to say 1 out of 10, 5 out of 10,
it happens way too much. And I think some of that goes with like the swing, right? So we're like, we need more information. And so they swung over to like, here's a one page, 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 here's a one page. And all of a sudden it's all just mud, right? So, and obviously I'm not of the pay grade at the franchise networks to say, this is what I want you to do. So this is just Lisa Welko's approach, but I would love to have videos I can share that are candidate facing, and then material that I can share that's candidate facing, one or two one pagers. And then I love that long kind of share all the information. Just let me know, how is the training? How is the support? What am I going to do in my first year as a franchisee? I think everyone that's looking at these franchise brands, all of my candidates they're definitely coming from a point of education if they're working with me, or they wouldn't be. But Some of them are really concerned about the training. Some of them are really concerned about their territory. Some of them
Right.
are really concerned about how much money am I going to make. So just address that. Don't try to save it for your call one. I think we talked about that the other day.
Yeah.
They're not going to make it to the call one if you don't give me a reason. So,
and I tell this a lot to the franchisor too. Gone are the days where you give no information,
right.
lure people onto the website, and then have a sign up form and get people to fill in the lead form. Because today's consumer, on average, they spend 7 to 8 hours to do their research before they want to have one conversation with you. So when they're on your website, or when you want to send, an example of what that could be for the candidate, they want to get educated. They want to first learn about, okay, what is this industry about? Because nobody wakes up and decided to just be buy a roof related franchise or
Right.
a
Nobody wakes up
switch
and they
rack.
want to buy a franchise.
Yeah,
People
exactly.
want what franchise ownership, and they want what franchise ownership offers, and that dream of the American dream. They don't necessarily wake up and say, "Hey, I want to buy a franchise," or "I really want to, clean gutters." Right? It's the means to their dream. It's not necessarily the end goal. So anyway.
Okay, well, I see one question here from Chelsea, and I want to address that. And this one is, how do you feel about candidate-facing material and video having franchisor contact being on the material? We briefly talked about that, Lisa. How do you feel about that from the consultant perspective?
I mean, to me, I think, 10 years ago, we were super, super careful. We wanted to keep, if we were talking about the brands, we kept the name of the brand to ourselves, because in the world, one of the issues is that they're going to try to go around me, right? They're going to say, I got all this great information from Lisa, and now I'm going to go straight from the brand and do it. And I think that definitely that in 10 years ago, that was more of a concern. Right now, your contact information is everywhere.
Everywhere.
So if I'm talking about, I think Chelsea is Baby Otter Swim School, right? So we'll give
Yeah, Baby Otter. Yeah,
okay.
that. Good job, Chelsea.
Right. So, so if I'm talking about Baby Otter, I've already I've presented you to them. I have, given them some information. I've encouraged them to go to your YouTube channel, to go check out your website. I tell brands this, and I tell franchise candidates, by the time you two meet, you're going to know a lot about each other. Right. Yeah. And that's probably the focus. And so I guess, I would say, hey, Chelsea, do me a favor. And if they don't, come through a broker with a name, maybe ask that question. Hey, have you talked to someone? How did you hear about us? And maybe that's a way to throw us a bone if it was, if they did come through a broker or something that I said.
And Chelsea, I'll share with you from our perspective as a video production company and branding perspective too. I think it's so important to humanizing people behind the brand, right? Because essentially, if I'm investing my life saving in this opportunity, I want to know if these people are capable of taking my life saving and make me into the dream that I have in mind that you're trying to sell me to, right? So Baby Otters, great brand, but who are the people behind the brand? Which is one of the example that I always recommend brands. If you are just starting out, or if you have no video material in your friend dev sales cycle, the number one most important piece of content you need to have is a founder story or a brand story video. Because people need, and more so if you're an emerging brand, right? Lisa, we were just talking about it yesterday. Because
I'll say I bought into a major emerging brand, right? And I did so much research on Evan Miller. So, I mean, I had to, right? That's just knowing who I am, is that he's who I'm hooking our wagon to, right? He's my leader that I'm going to need to follow. And so I'm proof of that one.
Thank you for tuning in, Bill. So Bill and I and Mark Parsma, we connected really well during the IFPG regional at Salt Lake City. And so I was on stage to tell Zors about the importance of storytelling, and Bill and Mark was saying exactly the same thing. So I want to ask you this, Lisa, how important it is storytelling in helping consultant to sell a franchise? I mean, like position a franchise to a candidate. And can you share some example, the impactful story that you have told and make an impact to the sales cycle?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you talk to two of the best in the business, right? So Bill King and Mark Pasma, I am a small, humble little shadow of what I have learned from them. But as far as I think the question was around, how do I use those stories?
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, I think I can get what I need about your item 19 and your performance and your number of years in business and number of studios. Like, that information is pretty accessible to me. So yeah, that's fine for your one sheet. And I know that you're using the item 19, if it's a good one, to, attract new candidates. So I'm not saying don't talk about it, but the stories that will resonate are, I'm going to say, the true stories of franchisees who are successful at the level of the item 19. I'm sure that didn't come out right, but it's those franchisees that are saying, yes, this is a, $4 million business. In my first year, I did about 400. And then the second year I did about 8. And then the third year I started to hit stride. So you can get me to those numbers, but the true understanding of what it takes to get to that income level is probably more important, because I think that's where people are going to understand that this isn't just a silver bullet. Like these franchisees in the item 19 that are doing 7 figures worked to get there. They put in the time, they followed the process. What was the process they followed? How long did it take? What were the hurdles it took them to get there? Just if you put it out front, people aren't going to be trying to catch you in an aha.
Mm-hmm.
You're just going to know, right? So if it's a little tricky and that first year is really, really hard, just say it, right? The first year is super, super hard, but the second year is a little bit easier. Once you hit this gets better. And I think it helps people get a real world understanding of what their life is going to look like as a franchise owner.
Yeah, and I couldn't stress more important about that too, because it's so important to be transparent at the get-go of what that hard work looks like, right? Like you don't want to attract the wrong franchisee into the network. And if you have the wrong one, you have to deal with it for a really long time. And that can really spread like a bacterial.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the franchisees that are getting into your system, they need to know about the hard parts, because they need to know that they can overcome them. You don't want surprises. You don't want someone thinking it's all going to be unicorns and rainbows. And I mean, franchisee example, we had to let go of one of our prime staff members within the first quarter, right? It was like, whew, okay. But I knew what I was getting into. I knew there were going to be bumps and bruises. I knew what it takes to run a business. And so I think, just honesty is the best policy.
Yeah. And one of some of these video assets that we always like to recommend our client to be filming, it's like a day in the life video that really paints a good picture. I remember recently we filmed someone for a client, and that franchisee literally say, I was working 9 to 5 corporate America. Actually, even weekends I was working, and I don't see any way out to that. And I want to build a generational wealth. I came across this consultant, and then the conversation started. It was really hard work in the beginning, but a year and a half in, we have 10 caregivers. By the third year, we have 100 caregivers, and at the moment, I'm not so much in the business anymore, and I can go play golf on Friday. Like that kind of really built a good picture of what that roadmap looks like.
Yeah.
Now, I don't want to miss these questions over here. Aaron asked a really good one. Lisa, what are the most effective strategy you have used to build strong relationship with franchise consultant and stand out in your portfolio? How do brand basically can stand out from your portfolio?
Right. So, I mean, good question. And remember, I'm not trying to build I think the biggest thing is go to the regionals, definitely meet us, go to the conferences. I know it's crazy and it's like a tornado a lot of the time. The follow-up is important. And I think for us, it's knowing that you're updating your content, knowing that you're out there. Like when you sign a new franchisee, like, tell us about them, right? That's a better blast than like, hey, we increased our blah, 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 right? Tell us those stories. Tell us who's paying attention to your brand. What kind of owners are doing well in your brand? I mean, that's, for me, that's what I'm looking for, right? I have some great relationships with some of the franchise brands out there, and it comes from that. It comes from, well, how is my candidate doing in Tucson, or that type of thing that got into the business, but also it's about those stories, because I'm going to share those. I'm going to share those with my franchise candidates. Hey, you know what? Some of these brands, I think it's important to know, guys, like, we do have hundreds of brands in our portfolio, right? And so we're going to have a handful of those that we do know well. But even the past couple of years, I haven't helped award a single brand, more than a handful of times, which means the candidates I'm working with, it's different for everybody. And so, especially if it's an industry that I'm not necessarily familiar with, I'm going to dig in and try to get to know you. If I start to do that and I go to the portal and I'm not finding what I'm seeing, that's when I'm going to the next one. And I think that that's what you're trying to get across in this, Claudia, right? Is the fact that it needs to be out there at the ready. When we're ready for it, have it ready for us. If I have to go to you and say, hey, you have a one pager and a brochure that says 2022, got anything updated? By the time you turn that around, I'm already on another brand that had it updated. So, so I think, to answer Erin's question, it's have that one pager in detail, have those franchise candidate facing videos either on your YouTube channel or in that portal that I can share, that you're ready to go. If you're getting ready to go when I look at you, it's going to be too late.
It's too late. Lisa is on to the next one.
Okay.
Now, Erin, I have a great advice for you here also, right? Number one, build a strong brand identity. If you can't say what your brand is, what mission you are on, what problem do you solve, right? In under 1 minute, like, you just lost attention over there, right? I think it's important to highlight your unique selling point. We don't need another pizza franchise when there are 500 pizza franchises out there. But
right. Tell me what yours is different, right? How are you the differentiator? I used to say this all the time. I can't throw a rock at a franchise conference and not hit a senior care concept. They're everywhere, right? So,
yeah.
And I'm not in the senior care business, so I don't know the difference. On the outside looking in, you all provide service to seniors and caregivers, and you manage schedules, and you make some good money. There's no doubt about it. I need to know more. Help me know why yours is different and better, hopefully, or even different. I mean, there's a senior care brand out there that's very good at saying we're looking for medical device and pharma reps. These are the people. They have shouted it so often that the first thing I think about if I have a medical device or pharma rep is like, okay, I need to go show Amada, right? So, I mean, that's the brand that does that. So I think, another good example, as long as I'm on this platform, is, so last year I had a candidate looking very, very closely. Actually, had two candidates, looking very, very closely at a similar concept brand, right? It was in shelving and that type of thing. One brand was super great for the gentleman that I was working for in Salt Lake City. He wanted kind of a corporate structure, multiple income streams, storefront, the whole bit. Person I was working with in Nashville, similar concept, looked at both brands. He wanted a smaller feeling. He wanted a founder that was more involved. He wanted less different streams coming in because he didn't want to feel like he wasn't differentiated. So two great brands, similar offerings. I knew the difference because they told me, right? And they told they told those candidates, what is our culture like? How is our training? And and that helped the candidates make the best decision for them, which is truly what brokering is. We are trying to help them find a match. They are going to know way more about your brand when they sign that franchise agreement than I will ever forget. So.
Right. That's a really great example that you share over here. We have so many comments coming in. I just want to make sure. Okay, hang on. What do you say to a brand when they say we don't need video? Basically, it's like, you guys just introduce candidates to us and we seal the deal anyway. Like, what are your thoughts?
Well, if they say that to me as a broker, I will say I have never sealed a deal. I have nothing to sell. So I do not seal deals. So if they're saying that to the broker, great. If the brand thinks they're able to seal a deal without video, good luck. Like if you're that good and you have another means of communication that's communicating so well with your franchise candidates that they're understanding your culture and they're understanding what they're getting themselves into, again, good luck. I think video right now is a way for us to consume more information. We, as consumers, it's a lot. YouTube is the biggest platform ever, right? So it's what we use to learn. So I would
just
say,
think about the people that are tuning in now. This is a video right here, right? We are all
exactly.
We are all visual learner today, right? So think about just log into the portal today and observe how many brands out there that has got great video content that is representing your brand versus those that don't. And often the ones that with great content, like Bill just mentioned here, like under 3 minutes, valuable, message is succinct and entertaining and informational, right? That really help you to stand out from the inventory, right? Lisa, what you were just mentioning, you have 900 brands in your portfolio.
I do.
Right.
Yep.
But a good 50 of them are the ones that usually stay top of mind.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, unless I have to go digging, right? Okay. And we're always digging and we're always trying to look for what's coming up or what I might be missing, or you hear of, a fellow consultant that, just helps someone buy a golfing franchise or whatever that is. And you're like, oh, I should go learn about that. So as I'm hearing about people's success stories, I'm using that to say, oh, I have to go educate myself. So I think that's part of it, right? I mean, and Bill just mentioned the 3-minute videos and under 3 minutes. And that's exactly what we need if it's going to be candidate facing. You can share your long form with them in the future, right? So, and that's great. But those short little clips are pretty much your commercials and not just advertising. A lot of it has to be stories. Who are the owners in your brand? What does their day look like? I can't say that enough. People want to know what their life is going to look like.
Yeah. Not just what the job is.
Right.
We're not literally finding a job.
We have the best pizza. Like I would hope you do if you're a pizza place. So
it just gives me a light bulb moment here too. Like I have heard countless times from the consultant of receiving subpar material. And it is almost embarrassing for the broker to be even send it to the candidate if it's a really great opportunity, right? Great.
Not almost embarrassing. It's super embarrassing. I just stood behind you. I've just taken 8 to 9 concepts off of a shelf of 900, shown them to someone that I've been working with, and you're going to have typos. I look like an idiot. They're looking at me like, are you sure on this one, Lisa? And I'm going, oh,
and no. Isn't this thing $2 million?
Right. I'm going to invest hundreds of thousands of dollars into a brand.
Yeah. So brands, this is for you to think about, right? Whether it is going to be an organic lead or a broker lead, your candidates judge their experience from you, your brand, from the very first touch. And so if you have crappy and low quality sales material, me as a candidate, I'll assume that's the support that I'll receive as a franchisee. So if you say that you are the number one HVAC franchise in the world or in the US, all your experience, all your touch point, all your material, be sure to come across that. And that's one example of how high quality video content helps with that. And I'm not saying video because we are video production. It's simply because video is one simplest way to connect with your audience, to get your message across, to have the shortest amount of time to inspire, build trust, or evoke any emotion that the candidate will ping back Lisa, hey, of the five, of the three that you sent across to me, this one sounds really interesting because the profile of that franchisee that I just saw from that video just sounds exactly like me.
100%, 100%. I, no lie, took a franchisor aside at a conference who I truly admire and truly respect and just love his brand. And I pretty much took him in a corner and said, where are you in all of your materials? You're the reason someone is going to look at this brand that I'm working with, and I can't find you anywhere. And your materials look like it was done on a PowerPoint when I was in 7th grade. And he just looked at me like, I mean, I wouldn't say that if I didn't have a really good relationship with him, but it was true, right? And so it was like, yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, right? Because I heard so many consultants come to us and say, like, Zors are not doing anything, therefore we're not talking about your brand, right? And franchisor, like brands, you spend, I would say most brands here spend a good half of your friend dev budget. I mean, if you are in broker relationship, a good half of your friend dev budget showing up to build relationship with this consultant. But what do you do after, and what do you do to make it easy for consultant to represent you, to talk about your brand? And that's what we are here for, and to solve. Ideally, we're passionate, we're talking about it like this is because we care, so no judgment here. Now, Ashley Taylor, can you expand more on the example you share about two similar brands were able to appeal the different franchisee preferences? What insight can franchises gain from understanding nuances that matter to individual candidates?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for asking, because I do think that that was a really powerful example of what I say all the time, which is that in the end, it's up to you. It's up to, meaning it's up to the franchise candidate to make this decision. And so as far as, insights into understanding the nuance, like what's important, think about what's important, what was important maybe to your top 10 franchisees. Like when you ask them now, or you asked them then, maybe when they first onboard, like, why did you choose us? I would say that's a great place to start. Hey, why? Ask your franchisees, hey, why did you choose A over B? And kind of dig in there. And I mean, I think for me, it was important. Their background, they were both from corporate America. They both had been looking for a little while, and then we settled into this industry, after a lot of education, and was like, okay, now let's dive into this industry. Okay, now let's compare apples to apples. And so from the beginning, I rarely will show two industries like right in the same industry. Home services is so broad, you're going to see a couple probably home services, but meaning I'm not going to show two garage floor concepts. I'm not going to show two, because we're going to use that example to try to get into the industries that make sense to explore. So first was that. But then for those candidates, how involved is the founder? How involved is the corporate structure? How many people are on the corporate bench? What do they do to support you? I think that's what started to stand out, because the person in Salt Lake wanted to have multiple streams of income. It was just really ingrained in him that he wanted to be able to do shelving and closets and garages and like all this different thing. And the person in Nashville really wanted to be the not jack of all trades, we'll say. To him, he wanted to be the master of one. And so he liked hearing, hey, 90% of our jobs come from the kitchen. They come from cabinets. This is where we thrive. This is where we hang our hat and put all of our training. And so the person in Salt Lake, that wouldn't have resonated with.
Right.
Nashville, that's what they wanted to hear. So I think for a brand, it's own it. So just own it. If you're really, really, really 90% of your income comes from one particular service, then that's what it is. So attract the people that is going to be what they're looking for. And the people that need that differentiators and they need to be, jack of all trades, it's not right or wrong. The person that wants to be the jack of all trades and have all those things is going to self-identify. Is that the right way to say it? Into the other brand. So just own what you are, shout it, and
that's your unique selling point.
Right.
Yeah. And very often, and I share this with franchisor too, we consult average a week with 10 different brands, right? These assets and sales material that you build out, not only it helps you to get candidate excited to learn about the opportunity, but it also helps you to screen out the bad candidates that are not relevant, that are not what you're looking for. Way early on in the process, because you don't want to be very invested hoping that they are going to be okay with 90% kitchen, because you would have saved that time much earlier if you communicated that way early. And like Lisa say, own it and say that very early on what this is.
That's awesome, Claudia. That's a great way to say it.
Yeah.
We need to know who you're looking for. We really, really do, because that's how we're going to start to figure out which brands to show. And I said this on a panel like 4 or 5 years ago. I thought Don was going to fall off his chair. I'm just like, don't tell me you need someone really good at communication and really good at sales, because no shit. I think is what I said on the panel, and Don was like, oh, that's supposed to say.
Yeah, I mean, these things are funny. Like, the salespeople, they just think about how am I going to bring the candidate in, and you just focus on your sales pitch. And I think what you mentioned earlier, the why is so important. So when we are interviewing a franchisee on set, it's so important to unearth the why behind it, the motivation, and how they ended there, and what is it now, right? Because at the end of the day, the facts just kind of inform, but the story help to unfold the why behind it. And those are the why that is going to captivate your audience, and the story is going to sell. And so the consultant need those tangible, real example to connect emotionally with the prospect.
Right.
Otherwise, fact is just a fact, and 10 other brands have the same fact, right?
And the facts need to be there. Like we need to look at those and glance at them and say, is that item 7 accurate? Is the, are the fees in line with expectations? And like you guys figure all that out. Make sure that your item 19 is fabulous and that your franchisees are making money. And if they're not, please stop franchising. Okay. Go figure that out first.
That's right.
Really happy franchise owners will get you past a lot of other chinks in your armor, right? So like get those facts figured out first, and then definitely share the stories with us.
Okay, so I'm gonna go to Aaron, because Aaron asked this question. I also want to ask Lisa that too. Basically, he's asking like, what are the top 3, 4 insight or advice that you have to help franchisor to stand out in your portfolio?
Right. And I think he's asked like to choose the right franchise consultants to help us grow, Aaron.
Oh, choose right. So, okay.
So Aaron, are you, I guess.
He's a brand.
Yep. And so I would say there's more of us than there are of you. And so sometimes it's hard, and I don't think you're one that will do it, but I know for me, and I heard Karista, who's a fabulous franchise broker, say this in the past, like, please don't call us So we're on the phone, and if brands are calling us to try to get our attention, it's actually a little bit more annoying. And so other franchise consultants might think that's great. For me, I would really prefer to learn about you through the portals, and you can shoot me an email, you can do that type of thing. But personally, kind of bugging me with a phone call is not the way to my heart. But I mean, I think to figure out to answer your question specifically, Erin, if you're looking to work with a couple of franchise consultants, it's the ones that have been successful with you. You can ask them, hey, who do you hang out with? Who are your colleagues that it might make sense? Because I mean, if Bill King or Mark Pasma or those guys call me and say, have a conversation with Erin, I've been showing its brand, it's really strong, that's going to go pretty far.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And I think also franchise consultants that either, I don't want to say live in places that you're trying to grow, because that's not really fair, because we work across the country, but that you resonate with, right? So if my Midwest personality is like nails on a chalkboard to you, I'm not your person, right? So, and that's okay. There's other very professional, buttoned up franchise brokers and consultants that might just resonate a little bit more with you. But I think it's hard for me to say, how do you pick 4 brokers to work with? Because I only know me. So I'm sorry, Erin, if that didn't help you.
No, I think, Erin, one other point for you to be considering too, like tuning to, say, franchise wires and LinkedIn post update, because brands these days, they do a lot of announcement, like this deal is closed and consultant close that deal. If you see a competitor brand announcement that works with this particular consultant to close that deal, maybe it's a good way for you to be pushing and to reach out to build a relationship.
Yeah, shoot us a message on LinkedIn. Hey, congrats on that.
And that brand, that consultant is deep in that sports field that you're after, so that would be a good one. Trevor, the owner of the company, it's watching live here on YouTube too. So he did mention storytelling drives 20% more sales. Absolutely. I think all brands here are completely aware here that if you are capitalizing more of story in your selling, that selling just kind of happen along the way. We have a couple of minutes left before our webinar ends. Time just flies, Lisa.
I was going to say too, hey, and I think the other franchise consultants like this one. So if we do a territory check, give us a little bit of an example there. So that's a really good opportunity to get our attention. So instead of just saying territory available, it's helpful to say territory is available. Here's why it's a great market. Here's a map. Here's a video. So I know some of you watching this are just trying to get to the territory check. So when you get the territory check, follow up with information, especially on that geography, because then I can say, hey, Nashville, they don't have any presence in your market. They say that the market has 72% opportunity for buyers. They say this map will help you understand. It's going to make it more personal. So if you take anything, from this, is once you do get that territory check, territory approved button is fine, but a little bit more is always better.
Yeah, always go the extra mile and feed in a bit more information in your sales cycle helps, right? So Lisa, we have 2 minutes left. I want to spend the last 1 minute to wrap around, right?
Okay.
If you have one tip, no, let's just say 2 tips for the franchisor, right? What would it be for them to work more effectively, more leads coming through from broker?
Right. I would say go in and check your portals at least once a month and clean them up and update them. You can send us blasts. You can say, hey, we updated this, we changed this. Tell us who you're looking for. Really specifically tell us who's going to make a really good owner in your system. So update that, put it on your portal, put it on a sheet, whatever that is. But if we know that about you, we know those specifics, that will help you stay top of mind.
That's good. We have one tip. Hang on a minute. Let me put this across. So I'm going to wrap around and talk about the ebook that we spend a lot of time to build out for franchisor like yourself. So thank you everyone for tuning in today. In 2024, we spent a whole years of researching actually what are the franchise marketing trend, what is working, what is not working. We spend a lot of time on writing this ebook. It's 70 pages of goodness. It's available for free. So if you like to scan the QR code and download a copy, that's for you to learn and explore more about how can you stand out. And one of the things that mentioned also broker relationship and how can you build better relationship with broker and gain more success and get more RI from those investment that you make. I'd like to say thank you to Lisa for hopping on and have these conversations with me today. There are so much golden nuggets that we're giving away. If you'd like to connect with Lisa, feel free to just look her up on LinkedIn. She's really active there. Her cell phone is right there. So if you'd like to build a relationship,
Don't call me. I just said that.
oh, not even text.
Email me. I'm teasing.
Yeah, absolutely. And then for me, if you'd like to connect with me, feel free to scan this QR code and we can schedule a conversation and learn more about how we can help you out with your brand. If you're spending half your budget in a year to go build relationship with consultant, be sure to have great material to set you up for success. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in live today. We are really, really excited for our next webinar that is going to be on the 2nd or the 3rd week of February. And it's going to be Trevor and a mystery guest that we have a really huge announcement coming to you. So stay tuned. Thank you for connecting with us today. Have a nice day, everybody.
Thank you.